So let's get to the news surrounding Kerr Kriisa. So Kentucky posted about this on socials. I saw it on Twitter, where they went to a restaurant in Lexington that hosted the seniors with their families on the eve of senior night. Really cool moment. And you'll notice the players that are there in the photo. It's Brea, Carr, Butler, Robinson, Ansley, and Williams. But you'll notice who's not there. Kriisa's not there. And Mark Pope, according to Jack Pilgrim of KSR, said that Kerr Kriisa was not invited to the dinner. Why was he not invited to a dinner for seniors? It was only, according to Mark Pope, for players that are out officially of college eligibility. He said, quote, "It's just for the guys that have zero college eligibility left. Just those 6 guys. Kerr's got another year left, which is fantastic for all of us, right? Gentlemen, how much sense does Kerr Kriisa make on next year's roster with somebody like Jasper and Acaden in the backcourt? I've thought about this a little bit, and I'm going to be completely honest with you. I've continued to say I don't think it makes a ton of sense for next year's team. But upon further review, I think it makes perfect sense. I think bringing Kerr Kriisa back for a 6th season of eligibility makes perfect sense for Kentucky. Why? Look at the guards they're bringing in and look at the players that they have coming back. Otega Oweh is a shooting guard or a small forward. Tweener between the two. We'll put him at small forward because he doesn't really shoot threes. But he's still a bucket getter between those 2 spots, right? Jasper Johnson, combo guard. I think more of a shooting guard than a combo guard, somebody that will thrive in an off-ball role. Acaden Lewis, combo guard, more of a point, but I think that the scoring in him is Cam Carter-esque, if you would like to compare it to somebody. I'm so excited about Lewis, dude. I don't know what it is. I just really like his tape. Maybe I'll end up being completely wrong. He's the guy that I'm most excited about, and there's and guys like Marino and Jasper are like some players that could be here for a hot minute. That could be great. But Lewis is the guy that I'm fired up about. But I think you could play him in an off-ball role as well. You have Travis Perry returning right now, somebody that would play between the two, combo guard, but was a good shooting guard coming out of high school. We just talked about that in the preview episode, or just a few minutes ago, previewing this next game with what Kentucky's going to do now that Robinson is out. Collin Chandler is either a shooting guard or a small forward. Quite haven't figured that out yet. We will get to find it out next season if he stays, and I would expect that he does. We'll see. I don't know. Kentucky's got some work to do in the portal, man. That's all I'll say. And that's not relative to Chandler. I think they just need more athleticism and better shooting bodies, in my opinion. But Kriisa, leading assist man for Arizona and with their Pac-12 championship team a couple of years ago. You've got him leading the team in assist rate while he was on the floor before he got injured at like 30.5% or something crazy like that. Point guard, flashy player, can shoot the three. It needs to improve on defense, but I think you can get that from other spots, like Chandler next season. I think it makes sense. I don't know if you're going to find somebody in the portal that is just as good of an assist man that can play significantly better defense while also being a plus shooter from 3. I think that you kind of take what you can get, and Kriisa, I think, would make perfect sense as far as being able to distribute to some of the other shooters to kind of take some pressure off of next year's big men, whether that be Garrison or who have you, which I am of the strong opinion that Kentucky needs to do that. I think they need to get a center in the portal that can kind of be Amari Williams-esque. They're also, how do I say this? There is a player at Wyoming that I think you guys need to at least know about, Obi Agbim. That's all I've got to say. And I'm going to be completely honest. I don't know anything. Personally, I don't know anything. But it seems to be the rumor on Twitter. We'll see what happens with Agbim. He seems to be a very explosive athlete that Kentucky could get for next season. The final thing I wanted to talk about on the show before we wrapped it up is something from Wildcats Tongue on Twitter, who does a phenomenal job covering Kentucky stuff. I believe he works with Rupp to no good a little bit as well. And he put out the most detailed SEC tournament scenarios. Put out a graphic like talking about the seeding for Kentucky if they finish 2-0, 1-1, or 0-2. The best case, worst case, and most likely scenarios for each of Kentucky's possible finishes to the regular season. Again, Wildcats Tongue on Twitter. And I'm going to read these here for you real quick. If Kentucky goes 0-2, best case scenario is a 9 seed, likely scenario is a 10, worst is an 11. They will be a 9 seed if Mississippi State and Vanderbilt both also finish 0-2 alongside Kentucky. If Arkansas finishes 2-0 and Arkansas plays both Mississippi State and Vanderbilt, note there. And Kentucky is second in a 4-team tiebreaker with Arkansas, Mississippi State, and Vanderbilt. The most likely scenario if Kentucky goes 0-2 is a 10 seed with Mississippi State, Vanderbilt, and Arkansas and Georgia all finishing 1-1. Kentucky finishes below Mississippi State and Vanderbilt, but just ahead of Arkansas and Georgia. And the worst-case scenario is an 11 seed where Georgia and Arkansas both finish 2-0, and Vanderbilt finishes 0-2. Vanderbilt plays both Arkansas and Georgia. Kentucky finishes above Vanderbilt in any tiebreaker. That would include the 11-seed spot. For me personally, at this point, I don't want to face, if I'm picking, I don't want to face Alabama and I don't want to face Florida coming out of either the Wednesday or Thursday matchups that Kentucky would have. I would like to face either Auburn or Tennessee, preferably Tennessee out of the 4 if I had to choose, which it really just does depend right now kind of like where Tennessee falls, because as it stands right now, they're 4th, and I need to pull up the SEC tournament bracket again because I need to be reminded kind of where Kentucky what would be playing the 4 because the bracket's been expanded. Yeah, so the 5th seed would play the 4. So that's on the table here. We'll get to in a second. If Kentucky finishes 1-1, best case scenario is a 6 seed. A&M, Mississippi State, Mississippi, and Vanderbilt all finish 0-2. Florida then beats Alabama to earn the 2 seed. Likely scenario if Kentucky finishes 1-1 is the 8 seed, something that we have been talking about for literally a month. If Missouri beats UK and Oklahoma, and Mississippi State, Vanderbilt, and A&M all finish 1-1, Ole Miss finishes 0-2. Kentucky would be second in a 4-team tiebreaker with Mississippi State, Vanderbilt, and Ole Miss. Worst case scenario is a 10 seed if Kentucky finishes 1-1. Mississippi State and Vanderbilt both finishing 2-0. A&M having at least one game. And if the Cats finish 2-0, best case 5, likely 6, worst 8. 5 seed, if you're 2-0, will only happen if Missouri loses to Oklahoma and Kentucky. Both A&M and Ole Miss finish 1-1 or worse, and if A&M finishes 0-2 and Ole Miss finishes 1-1, and then if Florida beats Alabama. So it's A&M and Ole Miss 1-1 or worse, or if A&M finishes 0-2 and Ole Miss finishes 1-1 and Florida beats Bama. And Missouri would also have to lose to Oklahoma and Kentucky, which I don't think that's going to happen. So you look to the 6th seed. Missouri, A&M, and Mississippi State and Vanderbilt all finish 1-1. Ole Miss finishes 0-2, and Kentucky would be tied with A&M and would hold the tiebreaker. Worst case in which, by the way, that would put them right now. It would have them playing as the 6th seed. They would play against the 14 or the 11. They'd play the 3 seed, which in this case currently would be Alabama. But we'll see if Tennessee wins their next game here against Ole Miss, which I think would play into the scenario there. Then Tennessee would hold the tiebreaker over Alabama, and then they would be 3rd, and Kentucky would play them as the 6th seed. The worst case scenario, that would be the 8th seed. Missouri beats Oklahoma, and A&M and Ole Miss both finished 2-0. So goodness gracious, you can finish between a 5 and an 11. Thank you so much to Wildcats Tongue. You go follow him on Twitter. I would strongly encourage you to do so.